Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 122. Let me tell you, I feel really good. I'm in a really good mood. First of all, I slept for like 10 hours last night, and I've been riding that wave all day. I woke up and I was like, dude, I feel nice. The other day, like yesterday, something like that, I looked in the mirror and I was like, yo, my eye bags look a lot better. Like, noticeably a lot better. I think if you go back maybe a year ago and just look at me on camera, I'm like, I look like a raccoon, dude. I feel really good. I put out 2 videos this month. I think a lot of people liked that Frankenstein video. Didn't do that well in terms of viewership, but I don't know. It was a good experience. Like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. And it was fun. It was fun to make. I didn't stress myself out making it, which was nice. I didn't feel exhausted by the end. It was just fun, you know? It was good. I threw that thing together in a week. It was like an old... Anyone who's been watching this channel since, like, you know, season 1. It's like an old type seller video process. I haven't made a video like that in a while. Like that as in, I haven't made a video in that way in a long time. And that was cool. I don't know, I feel good. I did something very cool today, which... you will see in a couple days. I'd like to get it published this week sometime, which I think I will. Excuse me. I don't know, man. I'm having a good time. And we'll get to that after we do the comment review, which is right now. But yeah, I had a fun week. And tomorrow is also going to be fun. Tomorrow's Halloween as I record this. Comment review. We've only got one question from last time, and it's from Lozy, who asks, why are you going to play Dark Souls 3 instead of DS1? I understand if you skip DS2, which is the black sheep of the trilogy, but it's a game you don't have to skip. I'm assuming DS1 is the game you don't have to skip. It's in the unwritten laws of humanity. It's actually also in the UN... the Geneva Convention. They say you don't skip Dark Souls 1. The reason I am is because I've wanted to play a Souls game for a while. Like, I was really okay. I had this weird point where I've never been super interested in them. I think Bloodborne is cool, but it's never been on PC. I would probably start with Bloodborne if it was available to me more easily. Maybe I should go play that PS1 remake. But when Elden Ring released, I was in a weird spot where I didn't particularly want to play it, but I did have dreams about playing it, which is kind of strange, right? Like, I've barely seen gameplay of it, to be honest. I don't know if I've seen more than 2 minutes of gameplay of Elden Ring, because that's the kind of guy I am. But I was having dreams about playing it, and I'll wake up and I'm like, man, I should play a Souls game at some point. I should play a FromSoft Souls game. So I asked my friend Prox. I know, like, him, Mama Max, and one of our other friends. Like, they're all into that series. And I've asked them, like, hey, so, like, which one should I start out? Like, which one would you at least recommend me to start out with? Because I'm used to playing difficult games and all that. And they all pretty much said Dark Souls 3, just because it's the most approachable one. As in what I imagine that means is I've heard Dark Souls 1 is janky as fuck, and I might be able to get past it, but I probably will. I've played much worse. You know, I've enjoyed much worse. I'm sure of it. But 3 is like the one that I'm willing to bet is like, okay, this one is the one that makes the most sense to like a normal human brain. So that's the reason. That's the one I'm starting out with. Maybe if I love it enough, I will go and I will play the first 2, or Demon Souls. Is Dark Souls it's on Steam, isn't it? Right? Are how many of them are on Steam? Dark Souls. Oh yeah, they're all on Steam. Okay. Remastered is on Steam. Okay, great. So I could if I wanted to. I finally picked up Dark Souls 3 when I went. Dude, that game goes on sale once in a lifetime. That thing has been $60. It was like $60 for like 4 years. And it had a price. It had a sale. It's had like, you could count on like one hand how many sales that game has had on Steam. I swear to God. It finally went on sale, so I picked it up. And yeah, that's the one that I'm planning on. That's the reason. That's the one that was recommended to me. Apparently the most approachable one, which I'm fine with. I don't need the purest, most original, janky, fucked up Souls experience right off the bat, you know? I'm not opposed to it. But right off the bat, let's just, let's use some lubricant. I want to talk a little bit about some fun stuff I did this weekend. I want to talk about a local anime convention that I went to with my lovely Katrina and one of our friends. An very old friend of mine from Boy Scouts in like high school. And the three of us went down to a little convention called YumeCon. Now it's very small. It's like one of those conventions that's in like a hotel. Just like 2 floors of a hotel, like the one in the lobby and a couple rooms sectioned off, and then upstairs a couple more rooms, and like very, very small local thing. And I want to say, for anyone who is interested in going to conventions, don't just hit the big ones or even the mid-sized ones. I would say, try and find, like, if it's in your area or within like a reasonable distance, hit up like the tiny conventions. This one YumeCon used to be held out of this like little community college called Foothill, and that's like I went to that in high school with my friends for like 2 years. Yeah, 2 years before. I think I don't know what happened, if they kept doing it or they put it on hold for a bit. But yeah, it was like tiny, and it was at this little community college. And we went there and we had a fucking blast. It is super, super duper fun. I've been to Crunchyroll Expo, which is like a more mid-sized convention. Pretty big. Decently sized. I went to Fanime, which was fucking huge feeling, despite being in the same center as Crunchyroll. But it feels bigger. It also might have just been that we were there for 4 days. And then going back to like a tiny convention, oh yeah. Honestly, that was really nice. Because after doing 4 days of like an anime convention, I was telling Kat, I was like, I don't think I can do that yet. I don't think these old bones can stand up to 3.5, 4 days of traveling, taking the goddamn train, getting busted for fare evasion, going to the convention. There's like 1 million people. We're doing a lot of waiting. We're walking around this like 100 square miles of this convention center. It's a little much for me. I could probably do 2 days, but 4 days, way too much. And I don't know if I'm even built for a 3-day anymore. But dude, just a 1-day little convention at a hotel. It was great. Like we just showed up. Walked in, got our badges, and then just like, hey, we want to. It's like there's not a ton going on. Let's check out the upstairs where they have the artist alley. They had a couple guests, one of which was Faye Mata, the voice, most recently the voice of Aki in Street Fighter 6. You may know of. Also looked it up afterwards. the English voice of Yukako from JoJo Part 4. Who else? She's Lulu in League of Legends. She plays Ling Xiaoyu in Tekken Bloodline. That's the Netflix anime, right? She's Rin in Love Live. She's a Stolfo, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she's a Stolfo in Fate. She's Aqua in Konosuba. She's in a bunch of shit that I really like. I totally forgot. Like, I always knew her name. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's just voice actors, because I don't always watch the English. I usually don't watch the English dub of stuff, honestly. But like, it's just one of those names that just sort of floats around. And she's been in a bunch of stuff that I've enjoyed, or that I know of. And we walk into the artist alley, and it's like a pretty decently big like ballroom kind of thing. With just some art stands set up, and then just next to the door is all the like guests, like voice actors and whoever, and she's just like sitting there. And like, okay, at a big convention, this would be a scene of like there's 100 people lined up to get an autograph or something. Everyone's just sitting there. You can just go up and talk to them. And I went up and I was like, yo, you're Faymana? And we were wearing masks. I think she was wearing a mask. I'm pretty sure. I forget. I think she was. It was like a masked event. And she's like, yeah, it's me. Hi. And I was like, yo, I love Aki. She was like, oh, she was super nice. Only nice things to say about Ms. Mata. And and we just had like, you know, if this was a big convention, you'd walk up, have her sign something, and then you'd be out in like 15 seconds. We had like a 5-minute conversation just standing there with like zero pressure at all to like, oh, get out of the way. Like, there was no one around. Well, there were people around, but it wasn't like, there was no line. We just had like a 5-minute conversation because I was like, oh, she did this live stream with Sajam, who's a fighting game community like commentator, streamer gentleman, and they did a stream. It's really fun. I'd actually recommend if you're. He has a really nice teaching style, and it's just him like basically coaching her through her first few ranked games online in Street Fighter 6, because she's not super experienced with fighting games. And he's just coaching her through it, and it's actually like a pretty fun watch, like the way that they interact, and the kinds of like you can see the way that it's cool. It's a cool watch. And I was like, hey, I saw that stream you did. I really liked it, and we just ended up talking about fighting games. And she plays on Leverless, which is based. Which I think apparently was just because it's like she said it's like a Razer, I think like Razer something brand, like Leverless controller. And because it's really funny for someone to like start on Leverless, like right out the gate or something. I just think that's funny. Specifically someone who is as like not, I don't know how you describe it, in the nice way, like casual, or someone who isn't like me, right? I've been playing for like fighting games for like 8 years, and it's like, yeah, I'm on a level because like, oh yeah, because it's got this, and I've been on keyboard, so that's like I upgraded like, and I think she just got like sent a box as like a promotional thing, and that's just what she uses, and I found that very funny. She was with another voice actor, I believe voice actor. And she was like, "Oh yeah," he was like, "Yeah, I play Chun-Li," and I felt so dumb. I was like, "Oh, like for life? Like you're like Chun main for life or something kind of thing?" Because you'll run into people like, "Oh yeah, I play Chun-Li in every game. She's in so many games." And he goes, "Well, I mean, like, I just started with 6," and I was like, "Oh," and it like legitimately caught me out to be talking to someone who. Who is not talking about fighting games with someone who has not been playing them for like 5+ years was like, whoa, it gave me like a reality check. And it felt a little silly. It's not silly, but it's one of the, like, oh, I made an assumption. And yeah, she was really nice. and we just got to have a pretty relaxed conversation. And then I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna go meet up with my friends again because they fucking Cat and my friend walked off. They had a bet to see if they could, because we were talking for a bit, and they had a bet to see if they could do an entire lap around the artist alley before we finished talking. And that was like super cool. Like that's the kind of thing that you only get at a little itty bitty convention. Really, it's like the big conventions. Those, if you want to see like a big industry person, like the director of this anime who got flown out by the company that's running the convention to do a panel or to do like an autograph signing, like that kind of thing. There's like things that the scale and the size of that kind of a production do for that event that are on offer for that event. But like honestly, at a tiny con, you really go there for like the little interactions. Like you'll just meet a random person. Like there was a dude who was cosplaying Doctor Who, and he was like in character the entire time, and he got into a debate with my friend over like communism, and he was like in character the entire time. It was like we were just sitting there watching it, and it was really funny. The panels are always like, I love the panels, you know? I love a fun panel. It just that like, should I say fun panel? I won't just go to like a panel randomly. It's usually that's a dumb thing to say. It has to, yeah, of course it has to interest me. But you know, you look at the schedule and it's like, do you want to go to the panel being given by the guy who developed the Minecraft mob dating sim mod? Yeah. So there's like pictures of Katrina fucking giving the thumbs up in front of the slide of like the big titty creeper. And we went in and it was a dude, and he's just talking about developing this mod since like 2014 or something. He's been doing this for like 7 years and or more, maybe like 2017, something like that. He's been doing this for like years. The Minecraft dating sim mod, as well as like an animated web series, and like doing the writing and the programming. And in the middle of the panel, these speakers just started blasting techno music, and he didn't know why, and no one knew what was happening, and like a whole techno song happened for like 5 minutes, and then it was over, and he's like, I don't know what the deal was with that. So anyway, yeah, I really like the Enderman girl. Yeah, like that's the kind of thing that only happens at a tiny convention. And honestly, like a one day thing, you're there for a couple hours. Like we went to get lunch, and we came back, and it was like perfectly we watched this. The last thing we did is we saw a panel from it was called, I think, Sonic the Hedgehog: An Unfortunate History. And it's just an entire panel dedicated to hating on Sonic the Hedgehog. It was really funny. And I'm not a Sonic fan, so I don't know how offensive it would be to a Sonic fan. But there was one dude who was like clearly a Sonic super fan, and he was really digging the panel. Like he was really enjoying it. At one point, someone's phone went off, like a notification went off, and it was the ring sound, and the guys giving the panel were like, who was it? No, who was it? And it was that guy, of course. Yeah, it was genuinely really funny. And we had a good time, and apparently those guys do a bunch of panels like that. Yeah, it was, I don't know, man. It was just like, it was really refreshing. It was really refreshing to go to a nice little social experience like that. Yeah. Like very minimal waiting around, being bored, just hanging out, go with some friends. It was a great time. Totally recommend going to like find like a little convention. They're usually not that expensive. I'd highly recommend. You'll get some interesting experiences at the very least. Hopefully positive. I want to talk a little bit. I've been meaning to talk. I was meaning to talk about it when she was out. I brought this up with Feymata, but I do love Aki. Like I think Aki is super cool. The newest Street Fighter 6 character. She's been out for like a month, maybe close to a month, and I think she's awesome. I think it's really cool that in the first season of like DLCs for Street Fighter 6, they're already getting into like really interesting characters. I realized there's like a little bit. I saw what did I even watch? I was watching some like ridiculous Blanca combo came up, like a double. It's like you get 2 level 1 supers in one combo, and it's like such a crazy looking, cool thing, a cool combo. And I watched it, and I had to snap some perspective back into my head. I was like, man, like we're all used to it by now, but man, like you would never see this shit in Street Fighter 5. Maybe like with characters like near the very end of that game, like season 4 and 5, a couple of them, characters like Gil and Ouro, a little bit of Seth. You'll see that, but it's always like it feels like most of the characters in that game, they would have maybe one cool looking combo, and that was it. It was the routing was so reined in, the mechanics were so reined in, and I think like the amount of flexibility that the system has in 6 and the way the characters are designed to offer all these different, like even like I play Marisa, right? And Marisa is not she's not like a combo monster kind of character, right? Like she's not who is it? JP is that kind of a character where it's like JP has so many different routes. Guile is like that. Just so many different like crazy creative routes that you can do. Marisa's not like that, but like what she has is like 10 times more than fucking Nash had. and like just like that is more than enough for me. Well, it's enough for me. I don't know if more than enough, but like that amount of variety, and just like you can do, like I'm still learning. I'll still see new combos that Marisa players will do. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know you could do that into that, and you can get this starter, and that does this EX, and it's so cool. Anyway, Aki is... So my first impressions of Aki, I was not that interested in her as a character. Well, I was like cautious, like a lot of things with 6, I was very cautiously optimistic. Because when I looked at Aki, I was like, okay, the design's kind of neat, and you just sort of figure based off of context clues, like that leaked concept art and all that. Like, okay, she's like I think the most likely, the thing everyone kind of figured who knew the lore was that this was Fang's protege, or Fang. Fang, I think, is technically how it's pronounced. This is Fang's protege. Because at the end of 5, after Shadowloo is dissolved, Fang just kind of like, he like disappears back into the underworld, like the underworld crime thing, the shadows, and he's got a new like protege who is like this kind of young girl. And now 6 takes place probably like 10 years later or something like that. So Aki is grown up and she's an adult now. And okay, that's his new and yeah, that is what she is. And now Fang is like easily, let's see, is he the most hated character from that game just based off of like his character, not gameplay or anything? Probably. I think most people find Fang extremely obnoxious. I want to like Fang personally as a character because I think like what he offers in terms of the cast is neat. I like the idea that he's kind of like a whole horse character, like from JoJo. Like Whole Horse's whole thing is his whole thing, yeah. Is his like literally his life motto is always be the second best. Because if you're the number one, then people are gonna like come after you. So Whole Horse is he always works as a partnership, so he can always like offload some of the responsibility to someone else. He can kind of offload some of the blame for whatever horrible things he's doing. And if anyone wants to come after them, he can kind of disappear and be he's the second best. He's not in the spotlight, and he just gets to enjoy chilling on a beach with some ladies. And Fong is kind of like, he has that same kind of philosophy. Like, he's basically like a henchman. He's like the dedicated henchman character to Bison. Except for me, even I usually don't get that annoyed at characters, but like he pushes it a little bit for me. Like, okay, this is a little much in the goofy. It's a little too much. Not in a way I find very amusing. That's a weird burp. That was a weird burp. What did I even eat today to make me burp like that? Aki is like the polar opposite. Aki is not the goofball, and actually it kind of gives in that concept art, Fong looks cool, or in her arcade story mode art where she's reminiscing or reflecting on her training and all that. Dude, they made him look cool. They made Fong look cool. Maybe he finally got some confidence in him. Yeah, but Aki, like, as a character, once I saw her, I think it's actually very commendable that they created another, like, crazy girl character, and she doesn't really overlap with Juri. Like, people would immediately make the comparisons to Juri, but I think the big difference is that, like, there's a nuance between them, right? Like, Juri is like a punk. Juri's a punk and like a mean girl bully. Aki is like a serial killer. And it's like significantly, they have very different ways. Juri is like kind of very brute force in her personality. And Aki is much more like slippery and slithery because she's a snake. She's a snake. And oh my god, she is, they took the idea of being a snake and they pushed it so hard with her moveset and her animations. She is the most snake I have ever seen. I remember watching her. They put out before her release like a moveset preview video or something like that, and they didn't include her, like, the commands. They didn't include the motion inputs for her specials. And the video's going, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And it's going, and there's another move, and there's another move, and there's another one. And I was like, how are they fitting all of this into a move set? Like, there's a lot. I gotta use a bathroom. I'm back. So they did something. Once I actually saw the move list, they did something that is extremely rare for a Street Fighter character. She has so many moves. Okay, right. So, like, one of the advantages a lot of people overlook to, like, motion inputs in fighting games is that you can fit a lot of moves onto a character by just giving them different motions, because motions are so distinct. Like, a character in Smash Brothers can only have so many moves, right? But if you're doing motion inputs, you can fit a lot more in. Aki is pushing even that to the extent that they do something that I can't remember. Like, I don't even know how many Street Fighter characters even do this, where she has one motion that changes and like the move is complete. It's a different move. It's not even a different version. Street Fighter always has like a motion and then 3 different strengths depending on like what strength button you press. Quarter circle forward, light punch, medium punch, heavy punch. Aki has like her quarter circle backwards punch, but all 3 punches are completely different moves. Light is the bubble projectile, which has like an optional follow-up afterwards, which is like, okay, even more. Medium is the poison puddle. Strong or heavy is the poison lash, like the slash thing. And I was just looking, I was like, dude, there's no way she gets even half of this shit on modern mode. Like, she has just like, okay, what's her moveset? It's like she has the bubble, the puddle, the slash, the serpent whip, like the serpent lash, the Yamazaki move, which is a plus for me. Any character with like a serpent lash, like Yamazaki has, thumbs up for me. Bubble, puddle, slash, serpent lash, the leaping attack, the slide. She has the stance that she gets into, like the slither stance where she slithers across the ground, which is really funny. I love it. And low profiles, a bunch of stuff. And she has like 3 different follow-ups she can do after it. She does has like the diving attack. She has the double kicks, and then she can, if she's close, she can do like a command grab. Like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. Am I missing anything? I think that's everything. She is such a cool character. Like, just watching her in gameplay. I don't own her yet. I didn't get the season pass, but man, I'm really considering getting it for her. I'm also really curious what they do with Ed later on, because I really wanted to like Ed in 5. Like, I wanted to play him because I love boxer type characters, but man, I just really hate mash moves, and I just did not want to use his goddamn flicker. Like, legitimately, if Ed just had normal motion inputs for his specials, I would have played him. Like, I did not like doing his inputs where you just gotta mash, punch, or, I mean, like, yeah, he had weird stuff where you just hit 2 buttons at once. Like, he didn't have traditional motion inputs. Anyway, Aki is so cool. She's very weird. Like, she's a weirdo character. She has, and you know how I know she's a weirdo character? Her sweep is on her crouching heavy punch, not heavy kick. That's how you know it's a weirdo character. That's a very intentional decision by the designers to say, hey, this character's different. But she's cool. She's super cool. And watching Aki combos is like, man, this character has so much cool junk that you can do with her. She's like a poison character, and I think they figured poison out with her, where I don't think they ever really got it with Fong. With Fong, okay, so the struggle with designing a poison character in a fighting game is that poison is inherently an uninteractive mechanic, so it kind of, you have to be really careful with the way that you design it, because it's easy, like, if you make it like, you know, in, say, an RPG, in a lot of other games, like, a damage over time is you can make that strong because that's like its own thing. You gotta wait it out, and in like single player games especially, like, it's very different in a competitive, like a fighting game, where it's like, okay, are you just gonna poison me and then run away? Because that's like very obnoxious, and a lot of people don't care to play against that play style, which it's like, is it even a zoner? I don't know what you would call it. So you either have to make the poison, so like the solutions to it are numerous. What they did with Fong was essentially just make the poison so weak, it was basically just another, it was like a little cherry on top damage, essentially. But that's like the difficult thing, right? Okay, it's like, alright, if you allow the poison to be strong, that's like damage over time. What if you can combo into it? What if you combo someone while they're poisoned? Are they just gonna die like twice as fast just because they also happen to be poisoned? Like, it stacks onto damage that the character's doing with their actual attacks. So that creates like a problem where, but then if you try to fix it, like, okay, poison is not, doesn't do that much damage, then it just makes the poison feel like it's unimpactful, and like, why is it even there? Like, it feels pointless in a lot of instances, which is why there aren't that many poison characters in fighting games. Like, Fong is one. Who even else? Valentine in Skullgirls has one of her syringes can be poisonous. I legit cannot think of another character who has it. There definitely is one. I don't think there's another one in Street Fighter. I don't think there's one in KOF. I don't think there's one in... there's like, I think 1 or 2 in Mortal Kombat. Like Reptile... Didn't Reptile have that? Or like Acidic Alien, I think, had that in MKX. Anyway, with Aki, they figured it out. Which is that, the poison doesn't do that much damage. It doesn't do a lot of damage. But when they're poisoned, it gives your other specials bonus effects. So the poison is still just like a little extra on top, but really what you're looking for is to proc those extra poison effects. So that still makes the poison feel like a powerful thing that you want to get onto the opponent. Testament can poison you in +R. And it's also not... Excuse me. It's the tree trap. It's also not that great, but it is another thing because they need it. They need it. You know, Testament really struggles in that game. They really need it. They need every bit of help they can get. Yeah. I think being poisoned makes you take like extra hit stun against Testament. Like, what the fuck? So that's cool. Like, see, yeah, I don't know. It's taking off of definitely like inspired by Gil's retribution mechanic from SF5. Gil was, if you didn't know, in that game, Gil had fire and ice versions of all of his specials, and like fire and ice properties on some of his normals, and hitting somebody with either of them would put like an elemental debuff on them. So like an ice debuff or a fire debuff. I actually do think the fire debuff did damage over time. Yeah, okay, so it is like Aki. And then, so if you put fire on someone, for instance, and then you hit them with an ice move, the ice move would get, it would pop. It would essentially make a pop. And it would proc what was called a retribution. And retribution was basically just, they get launched into the air and it adds like nothing to the juggle counter. So you just get more juggle. So Gil in 5 has these really cool, actually very creative combos of swapping between fire and ice moves and just continuously juggling the opponent. And he's a really cool looking character. It's a shame he's just kind of bad. And Aki she's designed like that. I am pretty sure she loses like most of her shit on modern mode, which is really funny. She is a modern unfriendly character. Jesus. But I'm glad that they're already giving us pretty interesting characters. Because a lot of the characters early on in 5 were pretty safe. We're pretty safe. I want to make a video about why Nash isn't like Nash in 5. He's like not. I think by the end of it, I believe he was generally considered to be okay, like kind of C tier. I would be fucking shocked if he ended up on anyone's B tier. But even if he isn't like bottom tier, man, he still just feels bad to play in a lot of ways. And it's frustrating because there's parts of Nash that I think are really fun and great that drew me to the character. But he just had these goddamn, just these feel bad things. Like, why can't you just let him convert off of his good moves? Please. I want to make like a video about that at some point. Another thing I might make a video on is a topic I've been wanting to, I don't know, just like discuss. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Because there's been a lot of discussion recently in the fighting game community to keep on this topic. But yeah, Aki's cool. That's just to wrap up. Aki is cool. In the fighting game community, her voice actress is very nice. Shout out to Ms. Mata. Because Mortal Kombat 1 just had its first balance patch, and it's been, a month? Street Fighter 6 has been out for twice as long, or 3 months, something like that, and it has had 0 balance patches. Okay, my mic unplugged. I lost like 10 seconds of audio, that's fine. No balance patches. Had some like bug fixes, but other than that, nothing in the way of actually adjusting character strength or system mechanics or anything. And they said, Capcom has said that they're going to do one patch a year. They're going to patch the game once a year, which means that there's going to be legitimately like maybe 7 patches. This game, I imagine, is going to be around for at least 7 years, like until the next decade begins. Which is kind of crazy to think about. And it's going to get one patch a year. And there's been a lot of discussion around these two wildly different approaches to balancing. And I'm not a huge fan of either of them. I think the best way, honestly, is the schedule that Street Fighter V had. Street Fighter V patched. They had 2 major patches a year. Well, I should say major, notable patches a year. Maybe some like quick hotfix patches in between. But for the most part, it was like near the end of the year during the winter, there would be a big season update balance change where the whole roster would get changes. There would oftentimes be like a new system mechanic introduced, bunch of new content, new season of DLC is going to start up, all that, the whole shebang. You know, a new wave for the game. And then halfway through the year during the summer, there would be a more minor balance patch. Maybe not absolutely everyone in the game would get changes, or they'd get very small changes. But for the most part, it was like, I think that was a good schedule, just because every 6 months that works for me. Like, just to shake up the game a little bit, to give it a little bit of variety, and it's not too much, not too often. I think the way that like League of Legends works is fucking insane. Am I gonna shit on League again? I don't know. That game patches every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. I got used to that. I just got used to the game getting mixed up every 2 weeks. And mind you, it's not the entire... It's maybe like 20% of the game gets rebalanced in a patch. But still, like, way too much and way too often. Even having said that, right? Going over to fighting games where it's like, yeah, this is going to be the game for like 6 months. And you got to figure it out. Because people in League got... I think it's good in a lot of ways. I don't know. I think like culturally, it's a good thing for the game to not patch too often, because with a game like League or anything that patches so fucking often, so frequently, like, oh my god, even once a month seems like a lot to me now. It makes the player base like extremely, honestly, lazy. Like, it makes the player base lazy and kind of entitled, because the patch is always around the corner. You know, the new patch hits, and it's like you barely have time to actually get settled in and used to the changes to a character or an item before the next one's coming around. And that's plenty of time for you to fucking complain on Twitter or on forums or on Reddit about it. And it's like legit, it might sound kind of funny, but I think patching less frequently instills a mindset in your player base, like, just put up with it. Just figure it out, idiot. Because oftentimes, shit is not actually that strong. Like, whenever a new game comes out, I legitimately, like, don't listen to what the popular consensus is on what's broken, because day one, everyone's bad at the game. Dude, my mic disconnected again. Do you remember when Overwatch first came out and everyone was just bitching about Bastion for like 2 months, and then I never heard anything about Bastion ever again? I remember in League of Legends, people complain for the longest goddamn time about Teemo. And I mained top lane in League. So I got to play against a lot of Teemo. And eventually you realize that even in the quote-unquote bad matchups, like the ones where Teemo theoretically wins, he only wins if the fucking other player is bad. and they don't know how to play the matchup. Like, Teemo has like one thing he can do, and if you just wait for him to finish doing it, you can kill him, and he like has fucking zero power in his kit at all. Like, nothing. And guess what? Yeah, there's a reason that Teemo has been played one time in competitive play ever. I'm pretty sure ever still. And it was like a joke. It was like a fucking meme pick because like that team was going to be out of that tournament anyway. And no one complains about Teemo anymore. No one complains. It's just because people are bad at fighting him. And you get lazy when you're not forced to like sit down and figure out the problem. You know how to beat Teemo if you're playing like a melee-based character? Teemo's big thing, if you don't know, is that he has a skill that it's a point-and-click ability. It's like a blow dart, blinding dart. And it is a point-and-click, and it does some damage, and it inflicts a blind debuff, which makes all of your auto attacks miss for however many seconds. And theoretically, this allows Teemo to completely shut down any auto attack, like melee-based character, for like maybe 2 seconds at most. Legitimately, the only thing, the rest of his kit is like, it's like nothing. It's like the thinnest, most paper-thin character ever. He has like a little speed boost. He has a thing that passively makes his basic attacks, his auto attacks, deal poison damage, and he has his ultimate, which is the mushrooms, which are just traps that he places that are extremely slow to detonate. The only thing you have to do to win a fight against Teemo is just wait for him to use the blow dart. Like, if you can literally just approach him, and then make him panic and shoot you with the blind, and then you just back off, dude, it's on cooldown for like 10 seconds. You can just back and then go back in and just fucking kill him. It's so easy. It's so easy. I don't know why I'm talking about Teemo all of a sudden. But that's like a strategy. Like, no one bothered to figure that out. No one bothered to figure that out for the longest time, like, broadly. Right? People probably know now, but it's like, when your game changes so often, you just get used to like, strike this character down from the sky, please. I don't want to figure it out. And that's why I'm in favor of like actually waiting. Like, you know, when a game comes out, like when like everyone complaining about Maze Dolphin, I look at that, I'm like, this is probably like a scrub killer move. And that's how people would, because that meme got so far on why with the Totsugeki. People would ask me like, oh yeah, you play Guilty. What's the actual deal with the dolphin meme? Like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I would tell them it's just a scrub killer move. Like, it's a noob stomp, or some say pub stomper move. Like, as soon as you know how to deal with it, it becomes not like a bad move, but it's significantly more manageable. I think games should not patch too often. And I was thinking about this in the sense this brought to mind a topic I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on as well. I have this like theory for breaking down like a broad general rule for what makes a character, or honestly anything, a weapon, a class, whatever applies to your specific game. What makes it one strong and one weak. So the way that I look at it is there's 3 distinctions. We're going to start out with the mid, like top, mid, and bottom tier character. Let's just say characters, because we've been talking about fighting games. So we're going to start out with the beginning with the mid tier. It'll make sense in a second. So mid tier characters, the whole range of the mid tiers, have strengths and weaknesses. Like, yeah, of course. Well, hang on. So the strengths and weaknesses, for the most part, do not interact with each other. They do not have that much of an effect on each other. A top tier character is a character whose strengths cancel out their weaknesses. They nullify them. And vice versa, a bottom tier character, a low tier, is one whose weaknesses nullify their strengths. So let's think about this with some examples. So, a character like Dudley from Third Strike, when you look at Dudley on paper, and Dudley is a very good character, but he's a good example because he's a very strong character in that game, but he's not top tier. He's kind of just outside of the gate of top tier for a very specific reason. When you look at Dudley on paper, he's got a million things going for him. He has great pokes. He has great space control. Good anti-airs. He's got plus frames. He's got good combo damage. If he get a lot of his routes lead into a knockdown, which leads into unreactable high-low 50-50 mix-ups. He can work in like a throw into there. You can do strike throw, low, low high kind of thing. He can force you to deal with it because he has the rose, which makes parry timing extremely funky. What else? There's probably other stuff. He has like a weird low jump arc, which makes it difficult to react to. He has really good jump ins with like jump heavy kick. He's got like so much stuff. I think, did I mention his plus frames? Because his plus frames, dude, he's got so much stuff. Fast moves, great close range, good, like everything, right? So like, why isn't he top tier? He doesn't have a good special cancelable low poke. Like straight up. If Dudley had a special cancelable low poke, even one that was like sort of mediocre, he would be insane. He'd be like easily in the contention for top 3. Because his strengths are so overwhelming. But he has this massive gap in in his moveset, which essentially kind of forces his entire character to revolve around it, right? Like, he's so good against most of the cast, but against Chun-Li, who has a weirdly low crouching hurt box, half of his shit just whiffs on her. Because Dudley he's all like Marisa, in that he's really good at controlling the space and dealing damage to things right in front of his face, like eye level. Once you get lower below the waist, at the knees, he kind of struggles. He's got, like, his sweep is very short range. His crouch heavy kick launcher thing is a good move in its own way, but it's not, like, a really, it can be used as a poke, but it's, like, it's weird, It wouldn't really be your first choice. So, all of these strengths and this one big weakness, that's, like, how Dudley is designed. I think Dudley is a fantastically designed character. I feel like if every character in Third Strike was as strong, like at the power level of Dudley, I think it would be like a perfectly balanced game. But they're not. Now let's look at like so like Dudley has like all these strengths and he's got one weakness, and there isn't that much relation between the two of them. It's just a hole he has in his game plan, right? You can, like, very common ones will be, especially with characters that I play, for instance, is, this character has great close range damage output. Like, they're really good at close range, but they don't have very good approach options, like, it's a give and take. Because you can have both. It's usually just called a rushdown character. You can have both really good close range tools and good approach options. A top tier character is a character who has strengths that nullify their weaknesses. So let's take a look at a character like Zappa from Plus R, who I almost want to make a video about this, just so I can show like visual examples. I came up with this specifically, like this whole system I came up with because I got really annoyed at the way that the old Dust Loop pages said some stuff about like Zappa and Testament, like the top tiers in Plus R. So like Dust Loop used to have, it might be different depending on like what specific game you're looking at now, but at least for Plus R, what they used to have was a strengths and weaknesses like box section at the top of the character's page. And now I think it's like pros and cons, like play this character if you like this, avoid them if you don't like this, or something like that. Which I think is a better system, because the strengths and weaknesses thing was like sometimes they were really scrounging for them. Zappa I got really annoyed because that character is fucked up. That character is fucked up in that game. And when you would look at his weaknesses on Dustloop, all that they could come up with was like, bad aerial approach options, low combo damage. And I read that, I'm like, that's complete bullshit. Not that it's wrong. It's not that Zappa does have good aerial approach options. It's that Zappa is never in a situation where he has to even think about that. Because Zappa, with his summons, controls the entire screen. Zappa never has to air dash at you. What the fuck? He never has to do that. He fucking sits there with sword or dog out, and he just locks down the entire screen, and you have to, like, fight like you're on fucking Normandy your way through across the stage. Zappa never has to deal with the fact that he doesn't have good jump-ins. Like, I can't even think of a time a Zappa has, like, jumped in on me within a move or something. Right? It's never a problem for him. He never has to deal with it because his strengths just nullify the need for it. Also, the thing about him having, like, low combo damage, it's like, yeah, I guess, but it's never that big of a problem for him because, well, one, like, with certain summons, specifically Sword, he's resetting you so often. Like, I'll just take so many little random hits from getting mixed up because he has full screen, unblockable, nigh unreactable sometimes, high-low mix-ups with the Sword. Unburstable, by the way. He can combo you from full screen. And, no hurtbox, completely disjointed. Awesome character, Herxus. And it's like, you get reset so much that, like, he just doesn't have to... Pulsar has some pretty intense damage scaling. Like, combo damage scaling. Zappa never has to deal with it, because he just gets so many fresh hits on you all the time. Like, he never has to be forced to deal with it. To go back to Third Strike, because I think that game is a good example for this, because it has so many... It really runs the gamut between absolute bottom tiers and absolute god tiers. So you look at, like, Chun-Li, generally agreed upon best character in that game. What are her weaknesses? Well, she has kind of mediocre special moves. She has, like, serviceable anti-airs. Her EX moves aren't that great. I'm pretty sure she has, like, low health or something like that. And like a lot, honestly, like a lot of Chun-Li's kit is mediocre. It's not amazing. But she has crouching medium kick into Super R2. And legitimately that carries the entire character. Chun-Li I describe her as like 3 moves stapled together. It's crouching medium kick, stand heavy punch, and SA2. So, like, does Chun-Li ever have to... Like, Chun-Li never has to feel the effects of having a mediocre sweep or something like that. Because crouch heavy kick, SA2. Like, it just completely blows every other thing out of the water. The character centers around it. It's the axis around which the entire strategy revolves. Build up a bar of super, zone them out, and then try and land a hit and confirm it into super. You deal like 40%, you win in 2 hits. It's so... like, that is a top tier character. That's a top tier character. And then you look all the way at the bottom tier, and you look at someone like 12, right? And 12 on paper, I really like a breakdown that Befale wrote one time in like a YouTube comments section, which is that Chun-Li and 12, I was almost gonna say Q. You have those like weirdo characters with short names, but no, Chun-Li and 12 are kind of like opposite ends of the same coin. Opposite sides of the same coin. In that they are both characters who kind of feel like experiments from the devs to see how much you can make a character revolve around a specific small amount of tools in their kit and be viable. And they are totally polar opposites. Chun-Li is the best character in the game. 12 is arguably one of the worst. It's usually like him and Sean, and I think it might be 12 to be honest. And you look at 12 on paper. Again, you look at 12 on paper and you're like, okay, he has pretty interesting, unique pressure with like his air dash and all that. He has some really good normals. He's got like stand heavy kick. He's got jump heavy punch. That's a good jump in. Got like good pokes like stand medium punch. Some like pretty solid, some solid normals, right? And he can convert. Well, he can only really convert like some of them. And then when he does 0 damage. 12 does like absolutely no damage. Like a full combo from 12 deals as much as like a fucking heavy attack from Hugo. It's like ridiculous. Like one heavy punch from Hugo. Maybe less. Like it is pitiful the amount of damage he does. So it means that like no matter what, like no matter how many times, no matter how strong 12's offense can be if someone really knows how to play him, and there are people who can really put in work with that character because they worked really hard to get to that point with him. But like he has to work so hard because his weaknesses of just like absolute dog shit damage and extremely low conversion ability make like they make his strengths of his like offense and his rushdown potential almost null and void, like almost pointless. A character like Victor from Vampire Savior, also very much like that. Like, oh, he's a grappler with some pretty good strike throw, but he's like slow as fuck and he can't get in. And you get in and you get a command throw and now you're full screen again because of the like launch back after it's done. And it's like now you have to work your way in again, and it's like he just never catches a break. He never catches a break. Even when he gets to use his strengths, they put him in a bad situation afterwards. Yeah. That's how I generally think of it. Like, I think it's pretty consistent if you look across a lot of different games. That like, to reiterate, a mid tier is a character with strengths and weaknesses that don't really affect each other. A top tier is a character with strengths that cancel out their weaknesses. And a bottom tier is a character with weaknesses that cancel out their strengths. You could probably think of examples right now of things that fit this description. And now, I think it's interesting when you go from like the mid tier up, because, you know, people break it down. Like, this character is, you know, they're like lower mid tier. They're like upper mid tier kind of thing. And I think in that regard, the more it becomes like kind of like a gradient. It becomes a spectrum where the characters who, again, Third Strike is a great example of this. Q has insane damage. He can be crazy tanky because of his taunt. He has a couple really good buttons, but it's really hard for him to convert, and he's just really slow. Like, he's just sluggish with a lot of shit. He's got a lot of really cool tech. He's got a lot of cool stuff he can do. So he's not bottom tier, but his weaknesses are pretty glaring for what his strengths are. And you start to go higher and higher up the chain, and you get to characters who have strengths that generally outshine their weaknesses. Someone like Dudley, right? Basically, usually considered like top, around the top of mid tier, or like A tier, at least high tier. He's like a high tier character. That's what I'd consider. Everyone from like that C tier to A tier, I would say, is kind of like the middle range. And then you got like D is the bottom and S is the top, just for this example. Like, that's kind of how I think of it. A is like the top of the mids, like very good. That's how I generally think of it. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, because I've been thinking about that for a while. And I like thinking about characters in relationship to that. So, like, for instance, is Aki, like, where does Aki place on the tier list? Well, actually, I think it might even be a little early to tell. I'd be really curious to to see what she's like with maybe a month or two more of development and people figuring stuff out with her. But for the most part, just from observation and not being able to play the character yet, she looks like a character who has some very strong high points. Yeah, she feels like a mid-tier. She feels like a pretty good mid-tier that requires some dedication to learn. Like, her high points are really good, but her low points are weird, like kind of limited conversion ability. But if you're in specific situations, her conversion ability can be like insane, and her combo routes can be like nutty. She doesn't have that many ways of using the system mechanics of Street Fighter 6 very well. Like, her drive rush isn't amazing. It's not one of the... It's fine. Drive rush, forward heavy kick, the jump kicks. Yeah, it's alright. But I don't think she's terrible. I don't think she's like... I think the idea that she's low tier is like ridiculous. Also, in a game like Street Fighter 6, a character being low tier, it means something very different from a game like 5 or 4 or 3 or honestly any other Street Fighter game. And that's because Street Fighter 6... Oh, who made a video on this? Someone made a video on this, and I cannot remember who. About why 6's balance is very different from other games. And that's because... And I identified it also, like, as soon as I started watching the video, because it's something that I have been kind of aware of for a while, which is that Street Fighter 6 is a very systems-driven game. It's a, no pun intended, driven, drive. A lot of character strength in this game comes from the way that they're able to utilize the system mechanics, the universal system mechanics, namely things like drive rush, right? Or sometimes how vulnerable they are to system mechanics. If a character is really easy to drive impact, really easy to parry, something like that, right? In a game like 5, even the universal mechanics were oftentimes very much tied to... They were made like the whole V system is basically like individual character traits for every single mechanic, right? Like, everyone has unique V skills, everyone has unique V triggers, everyone pretty much gets like a unique V reversal. There's like only a couple different types, but it's like different for every character. And that means that the responsibility of being good is like rests largely on the character's kit itself. And when you play a character like Nash, I'm still not over it. When you play a character like Nash, and his V system is like the most underwhelming shit ever, where it almost feels like... Dude, Nash's V system almost feels like random. It feels completely disconnected from the rest of his character. It's like, oh, he can like delete a projectile, and he can buff up one of his special moves, this one specific special move, to do an extra hit of damage. Like, cool, that really helps the character out, Capcom. Nash is very like launch Street Fighter V syndrome character. What was I talking about? Yeah. In that game, like, it was very much on the individual characters to be strong. And in 6, it's still like the character's kit is still important. But things like the drive system can really shore up the weaknesses in their tool set. I mean, like, Zangief has like a dash, It's not the best one. It's slower than the other characters, but he has one. He can do it. Giving those kinds of tools, those universal tools, takes a lot of the onus off of them. And I think that's why you've been seeing a lot of people winning tournaments with generally considered lower tier or more mid tier characters, and it's not just top tier central winning characters, right? Or sorry, winning tournaments. You got like Ryu's, you've got Rashid, you've got like I think Lily won a tournament at some point recently. And like generally considered not great characters, but you could use the system. You can use the system to your advantage. And so the it's much more of an even, much more of a level playing field. So yeah, that's my thoughts on like character balance. I think twice a year for a big or a large, a decent sized balance patch is good. That's my preferred thing. I kind of hope that at some point, I hope that Capcom kind of rethinks their decision to just do a once a year patch. I would like at least like one other, like one more. Just to like, I think 6 months is more than enough time to make a little change, right? A little bit of change. Especially considering that there's DLC characters who I assume have not had quite as much internal testing as the main roster characters. Launch roster characters. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about a couple mobile games I've been playing. I don't know, I've been experimenting with some mobile games recently. And some of them are good, and I like them. First up, I want to talk about a game I've been playing called Grim Tides. It is like a classic, kind of old school dungeon crawling RPG. And it's pretty good. It's got like a little bit of narrative. It has a very mobile-friendly interface. Very simplistic graphics, but with some nice art. Okay, remember when I talked about like Vamp Simulator for the Steam Next Fest, and I complained about how it had some really crappy-looking AI art for everything? This game also uses AI art. I'm pretty sure it's like made by one guy who just like, or a very small team that just like codes, like a small handful of people that just codes and writes it, right? And you know what? I'm okay with that. I am not super opposed to this game having AI art. So number one, it looks significantly better than the Vamp Simulator. Like it's AI, you can tell when you look at it, but like when you really look at it, but there's clearly like some hand-done touch-ups done to some of it to clean it up and not make it not look like absolute garbage. So there's like a little bit of effort put into the art, right? And also the game around it is decent. Like it's fun. If you are just, again, my thing is like, if you're just a small team and you really can't afford to like hire an artist, and you're putting this thing together on a shoestring budget, you know what? Fucking go crazy, I think if you can afford it, you really should employ a real artist. I would feel like almost like an ethical desire, personally. Like a responsibility to do so. But I mean, hey, if you're just like tiny, then go ahead. And the game around it is like very fun. It's very fun. It's extremely classic. There's nothing crazy. You get onto like you embark to different locations on the map, and then they're essentially just dungeons. And the dungeons are like tile grids, and you walk from tile to tile. And there could be a thing on there. There could be a special event. There could be a fight. The combat is very simple, but it's it's fine. It's decent enough. There's a lot of different... I'm playing like a spellcaster mage character. So there's a lot of variety in the spells and like different little effects they have. It's a very, very solid little RPG combat system. It's turn-based. There's like some systems for finding items. There's while you're in the dungeon, and then like reselling them or crafting them together to make something new. There's like, yeah, it's just a pretty solid all around, like very classic feeling kind of RPG, which is nice. And I think it works very well for a mobile platform. There are ads, but they are not intrusive. They are they are intrusive in the sense that they do like take up the screen and the fucking video is gonna play or whatever. But as far as ads go, it's fairly infrequent. Like, they don't get on my nerves. Sometimes mobile game ads are like, oh my fucking god, dude, like this often. Oh, cat's ice skating. That's so cute. You look like you're having a fun time. Heart. I'm recording the podcast right now. We're doing a Halloween thing tomorrow. She convinced me to, oh fuck, I have to do laundry for that. She convinced me to do a Scott Pilgrim Ramona Flowers couples costume thing. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Sometimes ads are like, God, fuck it. This is a lot, and it really gets on my nerves. This has been like mostly fine. You know, if you're gonna have ads, I don't mind this level of integration with it. Yeah, Grim Tides. Very simple recommendation. Pretty fun, and it free with some ads. Very fair feeling in terms of monetization. Maybe respectful would be the better word. I played a little game called UnCiv. Now, I don't think that it was for me, but I could see someone else enjoying it. UnCiv it's like UnCiv. We're not making pasta in here. Oh, the hardy-har. UnCiv is it's basically like a Sid Meier's Civilization type game. You're on a map with the hexagons, and you have a city, and then you expand your city, and you get... And, okay, first point of friction with this game, the tutorial is really bad. It was excessively bad. I've never really played a game like this. I own Sid Meier's... whatever the space one is. I think it's like the 6th one. I've never played it. I got it out of like a random game bundle, and I've never actually downloaded or played it. Maybe I should, just to check it out, so just to get like, you know, a second opinion on this genre. But this I did not care for that much. I've never played one of these before, so a lot of the concepts were unfamiliar to me. Namely, like, probably what I imagine would be common. What am I thinking of? What am I trying to think? What word am I trying to think of? Like design menuing things, basically. Like, the tutorial is telling me to do a thing, and I don't understand what they mean. As in, it almost feels like it's not, like English is not the first language of the developers or something, which honestly it might not be. Like, I don't know what they're saying, and the instructions they're giving are very vague. Like, click this button. And I'm like, click the green button. And I'm like, what is the green thing? Like, or click the green tile. I'm like, what is the green tile? None of these tiles are green. They're not, like, highlighted in green. They don't have a border. They don't even look like the land on them doesn't even look green. I'm in like a mountainous range. Doesn't even look like, you know, like fields, like green fields. Doesn't look like that. And also I can't tap on it. Like, what? Oh no, you meant the little green like person icons on the tiles. You wanted me to tap specifically there, and the sensitivity is like weirdly small. Like the circle for clicking on it is weirdly small. And I don't really know what I'm doing, and stuff is taking a while, but I don't know why it's taking a while, or if I did something wrong, or should I be doing something else, or... yeah. And then once I figured it out, like, kind of how the game is supposed to work, I just kind of thought it was boring. Which is why I want to play another game in the genre. Like, let me just, like, make sure. Do I just not care for these kinds of games? These sort of like Civ games. I like 4X games. I enjoy 4X games, you know. I don't think Civ games are that far away in terms of genre, but yeah, I honestly, it's like the what would you call it? The loop of build a unit, research a thing on the tech tree, go to, you know, move the unit here. It also tells you up front that it's like a slow game that's meant to be played slowly, and yeah, I just got bored. And then deleted it. But maybe if you like those kinds of games, I read a lot of reviews from people who clearly are fans of that genre, and they really liked it. Maybe it's just, I'm just not hardcore enough into it to enjoy that kind of thing. But yeah, UnCiv, I can't say I liked it, but you might. And then finally, I did not have a lot to talk about on this podcast. I've just been chilling. Finally, a game I actually really liked. It's called Theotown. Theo Town, all one word. Like Theodore. This is available on Steam for like $8 or something, and it's like, I imagine they take out all the microtransaction stuff, but I've been playing it on mobile, and I actually might recommend playing it on mobile first just to like check it out. Theotown is essentially a SimCity spiritual successor with really, really nice pixel art. Really nice pixel art. Not particularly stylized, but in that same kind of like old SimCity like style. You know, like the architecture and the types of houses, and it's very, very high res art as well, and just really appealing looking to me. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like a really fun, simple kind of gameplay loop with a lot of different systems going on. I say simple loop, but with a lot of systems. Yeah, I guess I would describe it like that. You build your city, you start out with like creating some residential zones, circling it with a road, and then people will naturally start building on there. The population's going up. You have a graph that shows you the demand for the three main types of zones that you have, which are residential, commercial, and industrial. And creating, like for instance, creating more residential zoning will create more demand for commercial zoning because people need jobs and they want to spend their money places and all that. So then you build some commercial stuff. You build a commercial zone, and then they need some industrial stuff to produce things, so then you build some industrial stuff over here, and it needs power, so you need to build some generators and connect them via power lines, and then you need water as well, so you gotta have some sources of water, and then a system of pipes that goes throughout your city, and then your roads, and then more people are coming, and your town level goes up, so you unlock some more things, and you can look at like the happiness level of your people, and you're like, they need some stuff to cheer them up. So I'll put down a park over here. I'll put down a beach by the lake. Happiness starts going up. I need to expand my city because the population is getting big. So and the demand for residential housing is going up. So I'm gonna create more houses. Now I gotta build more. Expand the piping system and the electricity. And then, now the roads, I unlocked a new kind of road. I unlocked faster roads, or more, basically more well-built roads. And now I'm hitting the point where it's like, oh God, okay, the city is pretty big. So, there's like traffic. I kind of fucked up with how I planned it. I imagine if I started a new game, I would pay more mind to how I set up my zones, because now the roads are like, oh man, yeah, having like single roads going back and forth, I got to expand the roads because there's more traffic and it's causing like congestion, which is limiting which is lowering the happiness level, and it's also cutting into the productivity of the town and the economy. So you got to do this, you got to do that. And God, it's really fun. It's just really fun to like build and expand and see like new problems. Oh, I'm gonna add a fire department. Oh, there's a fire over here in the industrial zone. Let me move. I should move my fire department over here so it's closer. And then you like, as your town gains more population and all that, the level of the town goes up and you unlock more stuff. And it is okay. I mentioned that there were microtransactions. The monetization in this game is very nice. I imagine if you buy the game on Steam for the full price, it's all just comes packaged. But really, the only stuff I've seen is like there's some it's really just like very cosmetic stuff. Like, hey, do you want to put this famous landmark excuse me in your city? It's like $1 or something. Or you can get a pack for like $3, something like that. There's like a premium currency, and I legitimately don't really know what it's for because I've never even been prompted to use it. I don't even know like where it's. I think it's at the bottom is where they list how much of it you have. Never needed it. I've never needed it. I've got like, I was playing like all day yesterday, and I played a lot of it today. Never even ran into that problem like one time. I don't know why it's there. I think there's like certain stuff you can like buy specifically with it, like unlock, but most of that stuff is just cosmetic. Like, oh, you want this specific kind of sports stadium for your city or something like that. And overall, it's just like a really fun game. It's just a really fun game, and I like the problems that it asks you to solve. I never thought city planning could be so interesting. But like once you figure it out and you've got this whole city of these cool little pixel buildings set up, and like it's good. They give you like a bunch of disasters that you can throw at your city, like earthquakes and fires and all the classic SimCity type things. You've got all of them from the start. I have not touched them. I haven't messed with them because I'm scared, because I love my little town. But like that's cool. I don't know. It's just really fun. It makes me want to go and play like a SimCity, an old SimCity again, because it's just it's a fun gameplay loop. I like that kind of simulator thing. It's called Theotown. Check it out. Do I have anything else I want to talk about? I don't know. I do not know. Yeah. Well, maybe next week I'll have a little more to discuss. But hey, don't tell anyone I said this, but there might be a little bonus episode coming up. That's right. We're gonna get out of episode debt. I owed you guys one more episode. You might be getting it soon. So be on the lookout for that because of something very interesting that I did today. So, yeah, I think I'm going to call it a day there. A bit of a short episode this week, I say, at like an hour and a half. But, yeah, if you've been listening this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, please feel free to leave it down in the comments below, but please leave it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. I will be back next week with more fun stuff. Check out the most recent video on the main channel. Be on the lookout for some stuff that's coming up that is very cool on both channels, actually, as a matter of fact. And yeah, everyone have a good day and a great Halloween.